I was left out of the family road trip because my sister said, "I don't want her around, she ruins everything." My parents looked at me and coldly said, "Maybe it's better if you stay home this time." They packed their bags, took pictures, and left me behind like I didn't even exist. But while they were off laughing and having fun, I remembered something: the house my sister lived in for free was still under my name. So I made a call, signed the papers, and sold it. When they returned, my sister screamed, "What did you do? Where am I supposed to live?" And my parents shouted, "You ungrateful child. How could you do this to your own family?" Now they're standing at my door. My name is Jessica, I'm 28, and I just pulled off what might be the most savage revenge in family history. But let me start from the beginning because this mess has roots that go back years. My family consists of my parents, Robert and Linda, my older sister Madison, 30, and me. Growing up, Madison was always the golden child. She was pretty, popular, got decent grades without trying, and had this way of charming everyone around her. Meanwhile, I was the awkward younger sister who wore thick glasses, loved books more than people, and apparently had the social skills of a wet napkin according to Madison. The favoritism was always there, but it got worse as we became adults. When Madison dropped out of college her junior year to find herself, my parents were supportive. When I graduated summa cum laude with my finance degree, I got a card in the mail. When Madison couldn't hold down a job for more than 6 months, they said she was creative and free-spirited. When I worked 60-hour weeks to build my career at an investment firm, they said I was too focused on money. But the real kicker came 3 years ago. I had just gotten a huge promotion and bonus, and I decided to invest in real estate. I found this beautiful 2-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood about 20 minutes from where my parents live. It was a foreclosure, so I got it for a steal, fixed it up, and was planning to rent it out for some passive income. That's when Madison had her latest crisis. She'd been living with her boyfriend Derek for 2 years, and surprise, surprise, he turned out to be a cheating loser who kicked her out. She came crying to the family dinner, mascara running, talking about how she had nowhere to go and no money for a deposit on a new place. My parents immediately looked at me. "Jessica, honey, didn't you just buy that house? Madison could stay there temporarily, just until she gets back on her feet." I should have said no. God, I should have said no. But Madison was sobbing, and my parents were giving me those looks like I was the worst sister in the world if I didn't help, so I caved. I told Madison she could live there rent-free for 6 months while she figured things out. That was 3 years ago. Madison moved in with just a suitcase, promising she'd be out as soon as possible. Within a month, she'd painted the walls without asking, gotten a cat despite the no pets clause I'd mentioned, and started throwing parties every weekend. When I brought up the mess and the noise complaints from neighbors, she said I was being controlling and uptight. The 6 months came and went. Every time I brought up rent or her moving out, there was a new excuse. She was between jobs. She was dating someone new and things were complicated. She was taking an online course and needed to focus. My parents always backed her up, saying I was being greedy and that family should help family. So Madison lived in my house, rent-free, for 3 years. She treated it like her own place, even giving people her address as if she owned it. She never paid utilities, never contributed to maintenance, nothing. Meanwhile, I was paying the mortgage, insurance, property taxes, and repairs on a house I wasn't even living in while paying rent on my own apartment. But I put up with it because, despite everything, she's my sister, and I loved my family. I kept thinking things would change, that eventually my parents would see how they were treating me, that Madison would grow up and start contributing. I was wrong. The final straw came 2 weeks ago. My parents announced they were planning a week-long family road trip to Yellowstone National Park. It was going to be this big bonding experience, staying in cabins, hiking, the whole 9 yards. They'd been planning it for months, apparently, and I was hearing about it for the first time at our monthly family dinner. "Wait," I said, "when is this happening? I need to request time off work." My parents exchanged glances with Madison, and I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Madison spoke up first. "Actually, Jessica, I've been thinking. Maybe this trip should just be the 3 of us. You know, like when I was little, before you came along. Before I came along. Like I was some kind of accident that ruined her perfect family." "What do you mean?" I asked, even though I was starting to understand exactly what she meant. "I mean, I don't want her around," Madison said, not even looking at me. "She ruins everything. Remember last Christmas when she corrected Uncle Mike about his investment strategy? Or my birthday party when she pointed out that I was being too loud for the neighbors? She's always so. Judgmental and negative. I just want to have fun without walking on eggshells. I felt like I'd been slapped. Madison, I was trying to help Uncle Mike avoid losing money on that crypto scam. And at your party, the neighbors had already complained twice, and I was trying to keep you from getting in trouble with the HOA. See? Madison threw her hands up dramatically. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Everything has to be a problem with you. Everything has to be analyzed and criticized. Can't you just let people enjoy things? I looked at my parents, waiting for them to defend me, to say something about how I was part of the family too. Instead, my father cleared his throat and said, "Maybe it's better if you stay home this time, Jessica." The words hit me like a physical blow. My own parents, choosing my sister over me, again. Are you serious? I asked. My mother wouldn't meet my eyes. It's just. Madison doesn't get much time with us anymore, living so far away. 20 minutes. She lived 20 minutes away. In my house. And you're always so busy with work anyway. Maybe you could use the time to relax, catch up on your reading. I sat there in stunned silence as they went back to planning their trip like I wasn't even there. Madison was already pulling up cabin rentals on her phone, talking excitedly about hiking trails and campfires. My parents were discussing what food to pack, what games to bring, whether they'd need extra blankets. Nobody asked if I was okay. Nobody seemed to care that they'd just excluded me from a family vacation because my sister didn't want me there. I was 28 years old, and I felt like that awkward 13-year-old again, watching my family bond without me. I excused myself early that night, claiming I had work to catch up on. As I was leaving, I heard Madison say to my parents, "This is going to be so much better. Just like old times." The next week was torture. My parents and Madison were in a group chat planning every detail of their trip, and even though I wasn't included, Madison would send me pictures by accident, screenshots of cute cabins, hiking gear she was buying, excited messages about how this was going to be the best family trip ever. I tried to focus on work, tried to tell myself it didn't matter, but it ate at me. Here I was, the daughter who had her life together, who had helped my family financially, who had given my sister a free place to live for 3 years, and I was being excluded from a family vacation because I ruined everything. The morning they left, I watched from my apartment window as my parents picked up Madison from my house. They were all laughing and taking pictures, loading up my dad's SUV with suitcases and coolers and camping gear. Madison was wearing this cute hiking outfit, probably bought with the money she saved from not paying rent for 3 years. They drove right past my building on their way out of town. None of them called to say goodbye. I spent that first day crying and feeling sorry for myself. I called in sick to work and just wallowed in the rejection and hurt. But by the second day, something shifted. I was angry. No, I was furious. I started thinking about all the times I'd been pushed aside for Madison. All the times my achievements were minimized while her failures were excused. All the money I'd spent, the opportunities I'd missed, the relationships I'd damaged because I was always bending over backward to help my ungrateful family. And then I remembered something that made me sit up straight on my couch. The house Madison was living in? It was still in my name. The mortgage, the insurance, the deed, everything was in my name. Madison had never contributed a penny, had never been added to any of the paperwork, had never had any legal claim to the property at all. I walked over to my filing cabinet and pulled out the folder with all the house documents. There it was in black and white: Jessica Marie Thompson, sole owner of 1247 Maple Street. An idea started forming in my head. A terrible, perfect, absolutely nuclear idea. I spent the next hour researching real estate agents in that area. I found one with excellent reviews who specialized in quick sales. Her name was Patricia Wells, and according to her website, she could close deals in as little as 2 weeks for motivated sellers. I called her that afternoon. "Hi, Patricia? My name is Jessica Thompson, and I own a property at 1247 Maple Street. I'm interested in selling it as quickly as possible." Patricia was professional and efficient. She came out the next day to assess the property value and was impressed with the condition and the neighborhood. Because I'd been maintaining it well and the market was hot, she estimated it would sell within a week, maybe 2 at the most. "The only thing," I told her, "is that there's currently a tenant living there. A family member who's been staying there temporarily, but she'll need to vacate before closing." "That's no problem," Patricia said. "We'll include a clause in the purchase agreement that the property must be delivered vacant. How much notice does your tenant need?" Here's where it gets interesting. Because Madison had never paid rent, had never signed a lease, and had no legal documentation establishing her as a tenant. She was legally considered a guest. In our state, guests can be asked to leave at any time without formal notice. But I'm not completely heartless. I decided to give her the standard 30 days that a real tenant would get, even though I wasn't legally required to. I called Madison that evening. She was at some restaurant with my parents, and I could hear them laughing in the background. She sounded slightly drunk and very happy. Jessica. Oh my God, you should see this place we went to for dinner. The view is incredible. I'm posting pictures on Instagram, you should check them out. Madison, I need to talk to you about something important. Can it wait? We're about to go back to the cabin and make s'mores. Dad bought these huge marshmallows, and Mom found this amazing chocolate. Madison. My voice was sharp enough that she finally stopped talking. I'm selling the house. You need to be out by the end of the month. There was silence. Then, what? What do you mean you're selling the house? I mean exactly what I said. I'm selling 1247 Maple Street. I've already contacted a real estate agent, and we're listing it this week. You have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. But Jessica, this is my home. I've been living here for 3 years. You can't just kick me out. Actually, I can. It's my house, Madison. My name is on the deed, I pay the mortgage, I pay the insurance. You've been living there rent-free as a favor, and that favor is ending. I could hear her talking frantically to my parents in the background, trying to explain what I just told her. My father got on the phone. Jessica, what's this about you selling Madison's house? My house, Dad. Madison's been living in my house. Don't be ridiculous. You know what I mean. Madison's been settled there for years. You can't just uproot her life because you're having some kind of tantrum. A tantrum. Like my hurt and anger over being excluded from their family vacation was just a childish tantrum. This isn't a tantrum, Dad. This is a business decision. I'm liquidating an asset that's been costing me money for 3 years with no return on investment. Jessica Marie Thompson, my mother's voice came through the phone, using my full name like I was still a child. You stop this nonsense right now. Madison is your sister, and that house is her home. No, Mom. That house is my investment property, and Madison is my tenant who's been living there rent-free for 3 years past her welcome. The arrangement is over. Madison grabbed the phone back. Jessica, please. I can't afford to move right now. I'm still looking for a job, and Derek. Things are complicated with Derek again, and I might need to lay low for a while. Please don't do this to me. You've had 3 years to get your life together, Madison. 3 years of free housing that cost me over $40,000 in mortgage payments, taxes, and maintenance. I'm done. But where am I supposed to go? I don't know. Figure it out. You're 30 years old. I hung up and immediately blocked all their numbers. Over the next few days, they tried everything. They called from different numbers, sent emails, even had my Aunt Carol call me on their behalf. The messages ranged from pleading to angry to threatening. Madison sent me a long text about how I was destroying her life and tearing the family apart. My parents sent emails about family loyalty and how disappointed they were in me. I ignored all of it. Patricia had 3 showings scheduled within the first week. The house was in great condition. Madison might not pay rent, but she did keep the place reasonably clean and hadn't damaged anything beyond the unauthorized paint job. The neighborhood was desirable, and my asking price was competitive. We had 2 offers by the following Tuesday. I accepted the higher offer from a nice couple with twin toddlers who were looking to move closer to the husband's new job. They could close in 10 days and were paying cash, which meant no financing delays. Patricia was thrilled. I've never seen a property move this fast, she told me. Your timing was perfect. The whole time, I kept getting calls from blocked numbers that I didn't answer. Madison created new social media accounts to try to message me. My parents drove to my apartment building twice, but I pretended not to be home. The closing was set for Friday morning. Madison and my parents were due back from their vacation Saturday evening. During those final few days before the closing, I had plenty of time to think about what I was doing. There were moments when I almost called Patricia to cancel everything. Late at night, when I couldn't sleep, I'd find myself staring at the ceiling and wondering if I was making a huge mistake. I kept thinking about Madison when we were kids. Despite all her flaws, there had been good times too. I remembered when I was 8 and broke my arm falling off my bike, Madison had stayed home from a sleepover to keep me company. She'd made me popcorn and let me pick the movie, even though she hated the Disney princess films I loved. When I was in high school and got bullied by Ashley Richardson for wearing the same dress to 2 different dances, Madison had marched right up to Ashley at lunch and told her to pick on someone her own size or deal with me. But then I'd remember more recent events that reminded me why I was doing this. Like last year when I got promoted to senior financial analyst, the youngest person in my company's history to reach that level. I called my parents, excited to share the news, and my mother's response was, "That's nice, honey. Did you hear Madison got that part-time job at the boutique?" Or when I bought my car, a reliable Honda Civic that I'd saved up for over 2 years to buy outright, no financing, and Madison's comment was, "God, Jessica, could you have picked something more boring?" The thing that really solidified my resolve happened on Wednesday night. I was scrolling through Instagram, probably torturing myself, if I'm being honest, when I saw Madison had posted a story from their vacation. It was a video of the 3 of them around a campfire, roasting marshmallows and laughing. The caption read, "Best family vacation ever? Sometimes smaller groups just work better. #family time, #grateful, #best parents ever. Sometimes smaller groups just work better." She was literally celebrating my exclusion on social media. But the post that really got to me was from my mother. She'd shared a photo of the 3 of them on a hiking trail, all wearing matching Thompson Family Adventure 2024 t-shirts that they'd apparently had made for the trip. The caption was a long, sentimental post about quality time with her babies and how the best memories are made when you're with the people who matter most. I screenshot both posts. I don't know why, maybe I needed evidence that I wasn't overreacting, that my hurt feelings were justified. That's when I noticed something else that made my blood boil. Madison had tagged her location throughout the trip, and I could see from her post that they weren't just camping and hiking. They'd gone to expensive restaurants, taken a helicopter tour over the park, visited a luxury spa resort. My parents, who were supposedly too financially stretched to help Madison with rent or deposits, had clearly spared no expense on this vacation that I wasn't invited to. I did some quick math in my head. Between the cabin rental, the activities, the dining, and the shopping I could see in their posts, they'd probably spent close to $4,000 on this trip. Meanwhile, they'd spent years telling me that asking Madison to pay even $500 a month in rent was unreasonable because money was tight. Thursday morning, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Madison, messaging from someone else's phone since I'd blocked her. "Jessica, I've been thinking about what you said, and I want you to know that I never meant to hurt your feelings about the vacation. I just thought it would be nice to have some one-on-one time with Mom and Dad since we don't get to see them as much. When we get back, maybe we can plan something together, just the 2 of us. Sister bonding time? I miss hanging out with you." Too little, too late. If she'd wanted sister bonding time, she'd had 3 years of living in my house to suggest it. If she'd wanted to consider my feelings, she could have done it before convincing my parents to exclude me from a family vacation. I didn't respond to the text. Thursday evening, my father called from someone else's phone. "Jessica, this is ridiculous. You need to stop this house nonsense immediately." "Hi, Dad. Having fun on your vacation? Don't change the subject. Madison told us you're really going through with selling the house. This is childish, Jessica. So you got your feelings hurt about one vacation, that's no reason to make your sister homeless. One vacation?" I felt my voice rising. "Dad, this isn't about one vacation. This is about 30 years of Madison being the priority while I'm taken for granted." "That's not true, and you know it." "Isn't it? When Madison dropped out of college, you and Mom flew out to help her pack and drove her home. When I graduated with honors, you sent a card. When Madison wrecked her car because she was texting and driving, you helped her buy a new one. When my car got totaled by someone who ran a red light, you told me it was a good opportunity to learn about insurance claims. Those situations were different. How? How were they different, Dad?" There was a long pause. Madison needed more help. She's always been more fragile. You're strong, Jessica. You've always been able to handle things on your own. So because I'm responsible and capable, I don't deserve the same support and consideration that Madison gets? That's not what I meant. That's exactly what you meant. You've spent my entire adult life expecting me to take care of myself while you take care of Madison. And now you're angry that I'm finally putting myself first. Jessica, be reasonable. Madison doesn't have anywhere else to go. She can move back in with you and Mom. We don't have room for her long term. The guest room is too small, and she needs her own space. Then she can get a job and rent her own space like every other 30-year-old. It's not that simple. The job market is tough, and she doesn't have money saved up. Dad, she's had 3 years of living rent-free to save money. If she doesn't have savings, that's a choice she made, not a circumstance that happened to her. You're being cruel, Jessica. I'm being practical. Madison is an adult, and it's time she started acting like one. What about family loyalty? What about helping each other? What about it? When have you ever asked Madison to show family loyalty to me? When have you ever asked her to help me with anything? He was quiet. That's what I thought. Family loyalty is apparently a one-way street that only goes toward Madison. Jessica, Dad, I'm done with this conversation. The house is sold. Madison needs to figure out her next steps. Enjoy the rest of your vacation. I hung up and immediately blocked that number too. Friday morning, I put on my best suit, grabbed my folder of documents, and met Patricia at the title company. The buyers were there with their agent, looking excited and nervous the way people do when they're making a big purchase. Michael and Sarah Chen seemed like lovely people. Michael was starting a new job at the university, and Sarah was a nurse who'd been commuting an hour each way to the hospital. They had twin 2-year-old boys who would love the fenced backyard, and Sarah was already talking about planting a garden in the spring. This house just feels perfect for us, Sarah told me as we waited for the final paperwork. You can tell it's been well maintained. Were you happy living here? I didn't live here, I said. I bought it as an investment property. My sister was staying there temporarily. Oh, is she sad to see it go? I thought about how to answer that. She doesn't know it's been sold yet. They're out of town. Sarah's expression shifted slightly, like she was picking up on some tension, but she was too polite to ask follow-up questions. The paperwork took about an hour. I signed document after document, transferring ownership of 1247 Maple Street from Jessica Marie Thompson to Michael and Sarah Chen. With each signature, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. No more mortgage payments on a house I didn't live in. No more property taxes and insurance for Madison's benefit. No more worrying about maintenance and repairs while she contributed nothing. When it was done, Patricia handed me a cashier's check for $247,000, the sale price minus her commission and closing costs. I had sold my sister's home right out from under her. That evening, I treated myself to dinner at the nicest restaurant in town. I ordered a bottle of wine, the lobster, and the most expensive dessert on the menu. I raised a toast to myself in the empty restaurant and felt something I hadn't felt in years, satisfaction. Saturday evening came, and I was ready. I knew they'd come to my apartment first. Madison would be frantic, my parents would be angry, and they'd want answers. I had changed into comfortable clothes and made myself a cup of tea. I was sitting in my living room reading when the pounding started on my door. Jessica. Open this door right now. My father's voice, angrier than I'd ever heard it. Jessica. Madison was screaming. What did you do? Where am I supposed to live? I took my time walking to the door. I looked through the peephole and saw all 3 of them standing there. Madison looked like she'd been crying for hours. My parents looked furious and exhausted from the drive. I opened the door but left the chain latch engaged so it would only open a few inches. Can I help you? I asked politely. Don't you dare act innocent, my mother snapped. Madison went to the house, and there are strangers living there. They said they bought it. What did you do? I sold it. I told you I was selling it. Madison pushed forward to the gap in the door. Her face was red and blotchy from crying. Jessica, please, this has to be some kind of mistake. That's my home. All my stuff is there. My cat is there. You can't just sell someone's home. I can sell my home, Madison. Which is what I did. But all my things. She wailed. The new owners were very understanding. They boxed up your belongings and put them in the garage. You can contact them to arrange pickup, though I'd recommend calling first rather than just showing up. My father was trying to push against the door. Jessica, you ungrateful child. How could you do this to your own family? Ungrateful? The word came out sharper than I intended. I'm ungrateful? I let Madison live in my house rent-free for 3 years. I paid every expense, every repair, every tax bill while she contributed nothing. And when you planned a family vacation, you excluded me because she said I ruin everything. Now you want to talk about gratitude? This is different. My mother protested. The house was Madison's home. No, it was my investment property where Madison was staying temporarily. Temporarily turned into 3 years because none of you respected me enough to keep your promises. Madison was sobbing now. Jessica, I'm your sister. How could you leave me homeless? The same way you could leave me out of a family vacation. The same way mom and dad could choose your comfort over including their other daughter. That's not the same thing at all. My father shouted. Isn't it? You made a choice about who was more important to you. So did I. I could hear my neighbors starting to peer out their doors to see what the commotion was about. Look, I said, you're causing a scene, and it's not changing anything. The house is sold. Madison needs to find somewhere else to live. If you want to help her, you have plenty of room at your place. We can't afford to support her indefinitely, my mother said, then seemed to realize how that sounded. I mean, it's not about the money, it's about you expecting me to provide that support instead. Madison is 30 years old. She can get a job, save for a deposit, and rent her own place like every other adult. You've destroyed her life. Madison screamed. I can't afford a deposit. I don't have first month's rent. I don't even have a job right now. Then maybe you should have thought of that sometime during the 3 years you were living rent-free in my house. Jessica, my father's voice was low and dangerous. You fix this. You call whoever bought that house and you tell them the sale is off. I almost laughed. That's not how real estate works, Dad. The sale is final. The deed has been transferred. I don't own that property anymore. Then buy Madison another house? My mother demanded. With what money? I just sold my only rental property. With the money you got from selling her house. My house, I corrected. And that money is going toward my retirement, and paying down my own mortgage. You know, the adult responsibilities you've never expected Madison to worry about. Madison slumped against the doorframe, looking defeated. Jessica, I'm begging you. I know we haven't always gotten along, and maybe I said some things I shouldn't have, but I'm your sister. Please don't do this to me. For just a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. She looked so broken, so lost. This was the sister I'd grown up with, the one I'd shared a room with, the one I'd covered for when she snuck out in high school. But then I remembered sitting at that family dinner, hearing her say she didn't want me around because I ruined everything. I remembered my parents nodding along, agreeing that it was better if I stayed home. I remembered watching them drive away without a backward glance, off to make family memories that I wasn't invited to share. Madison, I said quietly, 3 weeks ago, you told our parents that you didn't want me around because I ruin everything. You convinced them to exclude me from a family vacation that they'd been planning for months. You made it very clear that your comfort and happiness were more important than including me in our family. That's not what I meant, she stammered. That's exactly what you meant. And you know what? Message received. I understand exactly where I stand with this family. So I'm prioritizing my own comfort and financial security over your housing situation. Just like you prioritized your vacation experience over my feelings. It's not the same thing. She protested. It's exactly the same thing. You made a choice about who mattered to you. I made a choice about who matters to me. My parents exchanged glances. I could see them realizing that this wasn't just about the house. This was about years of favoritism, years of taking me for granted, years of expecting me to sacrifice for Madison while never asking her to sacrifice anything for me. Jessica, my mother's voice was softer now, more pleading. I know we haven't always been fair to you. Maybe we did favor Madison sometimes. But this is going too far. You're punishing all of us for one family vacation. No, Mom. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just not subsidizing Madison's lifestyle anymore. The vacation was just the final straw that made me realize how little this family values me. We do value you, my father said, but he didn't sound entirely convinced. Do you? When was the last time you called me just to see how I was doing? When was the last time you celebrated one of my achievements? When was the last time anyone in this family asked what I wanted or how I felt before making plans that affected me? They were quiet. That's what I thought. I stepped back from the door. I'm done with this conversation. Madison, you have the new owner's contact information to get your things. Beyond that, your housing situation is not my problem anymore. Jessica, wait. Madison called as I started to close the door. What? What am I supposed to do? I have nowhere to go. I paused. Madison, you're going to do what millions of adults do every day. You're going to figure it out. Get a job, save money, rent an apartment. Ask your friends if you can crash on their couch. Move back in with Mom and Dad. But you're not living in my house anymore. I closed the door and turned the deadbolt. They stayed outside for another 20 minutes, alternating between pleading and demanding and threatening. Eventually, they gave up and left. That was 3 days ago. Since then, I've gotten dozens of messages from extended family members. Apparently, Madison has been calling everyone, painting herself as the victim and me as the evil sister who made her homeless out of spite. According to the messages I'm getting, I'm heartless, cruel, and destroying the family. Only my Aunt Sarah, my mom's younger sister, sent me a different kind of message. I don't know the whole story, but I remember what it was like being the younger sister who always came second. Good for you for standing up for yourself. My parents have tried calling from different numbers several times. I finally answered one yesterday. Jessica, we need to talk, my mother said. I think we've said everything we need to say. Madison is staying in our guest room, but it's only temporary. She needs somewhere permanent to live. Then she needs to get a job and find somewhere permanent to live. She's trying, but it's hard out there. Maybe you could help with a deposit on an apartment, just to get her started. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. Mom, are you serious? You want me to give Madison money for an apartment after everything that's happened? She's your sister, Jessica. And you're my parents, but that didn't stop you from excluding me from a family vacation. There was a long pause. We've been thinking about that, my mother said finally. Maybe we made a mistake. Maybe we should have handled things differently. Maybe? Okay, we did make a mistake. We should have included you, regardless of what Madison wanted. But Jessica, what you did? Selling the house. It's so extreme. Is it? Madison cost me over $40,000 in 3 years. She never paid rent, never contributed to expenses, never showed any gratitude. She treated my property like it was hers and my generosity like it was owed to her. And when she had the chance to show me some consideration, she actively chose to exclude me from a family event. But now she's homeless. No, she's not. She's staying with you. And if that's not a permanent solution, then she needs to make it a permanent solution by contributing to your household or finding her own place. Jessica, please. Can't we work something out? Can't we find a way to fix this? I was quiet for a long time, thinking. Mom, do you want to know what would fix this? Yes. Anything. I want an apology. A real one, not a maybe we made a mistake non-apology. I want Madison to acknowledge that she treated me terribly and that her actions have consequences. I want Dad to admit that he spent my entire adult life prioritizing Madison over me. And I want all 3 of you to understand that I'm not your family bank account. I'm not here to subsidize Madison's life choices while getting nothing but criticism in return. And if we do that, if we apologize properly, then maybe we can start rebuilding our relationship. But I'm not giving Madison money for an apartment, and I'm not letting her live in any property I own ever again. Those bridges are burned. My mother sighed. Let me talk to your father and Madison. That was yesterday. I haven't heard from any of them since. I'm not going to lie, this whole thing has been emotionally exhausting. I keep oscillating between feeling justified and wondering if I went too far. I've lost sleep thinking about Madison crying, about my parents being angry with me, about the possibility that I permanently damaged my relationship with my family. But then I remember how it felt to watch them drive away without me, how it felt to be excluded from something I should have been included in, how it felt to realize that my own family saw me as someone who ruined everything. The truth is, I don't think I went too far. I think I finally stood up for myself after years of being taken for granted. Madison had 3 years to get her life together while living in my house rent-free. 3 years to save money, to find stable employment, to plan for her future. Instead, she chose to coast, to take advantage of my generosity, and to treat me like an inconvenience. My parents had 30 years to treat their daughters equally, to show me the same support and consideration they showed Madison. Instead, they chose to enable her irresponsibility while taking my responsibility for granted. The house sale wasn't revenge, it was consequences. It was me finally saying no to being the family doormat. Do I feel bad that Madison is struggling? Of course I do. She's my sister, and despite everything, I love her. But I also know that she's never going to grow up and take responsibility for her life as long as someone is always there to catch her when she falls. Maybe losing the free house will be the wake-up call she needs. Maybe having to face real consequences for the first time in her adult life will motivate her to actually build something for herself instead of just taking what other people give her. Or maybe not. Maybe she'll keep bouncing from crisis to crisis, expecting other people to solve her problems for her. But if she does, it won't be my problem anymore. As for my parents, I hope they're starting to understand how their favoritism affected me. I hope they're realizing that the daughter they took for granted, the one who was always so responsible and didn't need as much attention, actually needed love and consideration just as much as Madison did. But even if they don't, even if they decide that I'm the villain in this story, I'll be okay. Because for the first time in my adult life, I'm putting my own needs first instead of sacrificing them for people who don't appreciate the sacrifice. I'm using the money from the house sale to pay down my mortgage and boost my retirement savings. I'm planning a solo vacation to Europe, something I've always wanted to do but never felt like I could afford because I was always helping Madison with some crisis or another. I'm also looking at getting a bigger apartment, maybe one with a home office where I can work on the freelance consulting I've been thinking about starting. For the first time in years, I'm making plans based on what I want rather than what my family needs from me. It feels good. It feels scary, but good. Will Madison and I ever have a normal sister relationship? I don't know. Will my parents ever understand why I did what I did? Maybe, maybe not. But I know that I'm done being the family martyr. I'm done sacrificing my financial security for people who see that sacrifice as an obligation rather than a gift. I'm done accepting less than I deserve because it's easier than fighting for more. Madison said I ruin everything. Maybe she's right. Maybe I did ruin the comfortable dynamic where I gave and gave while everyone else took and took. But you know what? I'm okay with ruining that. It was a pretty terrible system anyway. Now they're standing at my door, but for the first time in my life, I get to decide whether to let them in. And that feels like winning.